Anaya didn't expect her mother's second marriage to come with a boy just 2 years older than her. Aariz had his own silence, a quiet strength in the way he observed people, but never offered much of himself. He didn't smile when they were introduced. He didn't resist either. It was as if he already knew they were going to be in each other's lives, whether they liked it or not. At first, they were strangers in the same house. Anaya would catch glimpses of him in the hallway, the kitchen, the garden. Aariz always wore headphones, always reading or sketching in his notebook. He was mystery wrapped in calmness. But in his eyes, dark, focused, a little sad, was a storm she couldn't ignore. They barely spoke, but the silence between them, it wasn't empty. It was full of everything they couldn't say. One night, during a power cut, they were both in the kitchen looking for candles. Their hands brushed against the drawer at the same time. Anaya gasped slightly. Aariz looked at her. The moment hung there, delicate and intense. "You're always quiet," she whispered, trying to keep the moment light. "So are you," he replied, his voice softer than she expected. They stood close, the kind of close that makes air feel electric. That was the beginning. Time passed. Conversations grew. They started sharing music, books, even silences. Aariz would wait for her after school, without saying a word. Anaya began to notice how he smiled when she laughed, how he would memorize things she liked, how he was always the first to listen but never asked anything in return. She started writing poetry because of him. Late at night, she would sit by her window and wonder why her heart beat differently when he was around. He wasn't just her stepbrother. He was something else. Something dangerous. Something beautiful. Something forbidden. They never said it out loud, but they both knew. One evening, everything changed. It was winter. The first snowfall. Anaya was in the backyard, trying to catch snowflakes. Aariz came out with 2 cups of hot chocolate. He handed one to her silently. "You always bring me what I need before I even ask," she said, her fingers brushing his. He looked at her, eyes deep and unreadable. "I just listened closely." There was a pause, heavy and warm like the steam rising between them. "Do you ever wish things were different?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Aariz didn't respond at first. He stared at the snow-covered garden. Then, slowly, every day. She looked down at her cup, heart pounding. The honesty in his voice was too raw, too real. Her breath caught when he reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Anaya." He said her name like it hurt. She looked up, and for the first time he didn't look away. 7 winters, 7 birthdays, 7 times she thought she'd finally moved on. But somehow, Aariz remained in every poem Anaya wrote, between the lines, beneath metaphors, in the quietest pauses. Her book launch had been a success. Critics called her writing intimate and devastatingly honest. No one knew that half of her words belonged to him. They hadn't spoken since that night, the night she watched him leave with a sketchbook full of her face and a heart full of everything he couldn't say. Until now. The reunion was unplanned. Anaya was invited to a literary retreat in Manali, a week-long escape for writers and artists. She went to clear her head, not expecting to find the past waiting in the snow again. He was there. She saw him by the fireplace in the lodge, sketching as always. His hair was longer now, a bit more salt than black. But the eyes, those eyes still held her story. Anaya froze in the doorway, her heart skipping a beat. Aariz looked up and smiled, not the polite kind, but the soft, aching kind that says, "I never forgot." Later that evening, they finally spoke. Alone. Under a sky full of stars and unresolved memories. "I read your book," he said. His voice was steadier now, deeper. "And I've seen your art. Your exhibit in Berlin, breathtaking," she replied, wrapping her shawl tighter as the mountain breeze whispered around them. They stood close. But this time, there was no hesitation. No need to pretend. "You wrote about me," he said. "You drew me first," she replied, smiling. He chuckled, low and warm. Then the silence returned. But not the uncomfortable kind. It was the silence they'd always known, full of unspoken things, full of feeling. They walked for hours, through winding paths and memories. "You look happy," she said, searching his face. "I've found peace." "But not closure," he answered, glancing at her. She stopped walking. "Do you still?" "Yes," he said before she could finish. "I tried to forget you. I dated, I traveled, I buried myself in work. But nothing felt as real as what we had, even if we never called it love." Anaya's throat tightened. She looked away, blinking fast. "And you?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I tried too. But I kept writing about you. Every character, every page, somehow came back to us." They didn't sleep that night. Instead, they sat in the lodge's empty library, a soft fire casting golden light across their faces. "I used to wonder," Anaya whispered, "what we could have been if we weren't us." Our eyes looked at her, emotions swelling in his eyes. "We were everything, even when we were nothing." She reached for his hand. This time, he didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined. A simple touch. But it burned like a confession. "You know," she said, "I think we spent so long running from what we felt, we forgot it wasn't wrong to love. It was just wrong to deny it." He leaned in slightly. "Then let's not deny it anymore." And for the first time in years, they kissed. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't wild. It was soft, earned, healing, the kind of kiss that rewrites time. That turns heartbreak into warmth. That says, "I still choose you." They didn't speak afterward. They didn't need to. They fell asleep side by side on the library couch, wrapped in one blanket, hearts finally exhaling. The week passed like a dream. They explored the town, shared coffees, read each other's old work. Our eyes sketched her again. Anaya recited a poem for him under the moon. There was laughter, and moments of silence so intimate they felt more real than words. But they also really talked, about the years apart, about their parents now divorced, about boundaries, futures, choices. They weren't kids anymore. They weren't just lost in feelings. They were adults with scars and dreams and patience. On the last night of the retreat, Anaya stood on the balcony, staring at the snow. Our eyes joined her, holding 2 mugs of cocoa. "Déjà vu," she said, smiling. He handed her a mug. "I always bring you what you need, remember?" She looked at him, more grateful than ever. "So, what now?" He paused. Then gently, "Now we stop waiting for permission to be happy." Tears welled up in her eyes. Not from sadness, but relief. Love, after all this time, had finally come full circle. They didn't need approval. They didn't need labels. All they needed was each other. Epilogue. 2 years later, Anaya published her second book, titled When Silence Speaks. It became a bestseller. Our eyes illustrated the cover. They moved into a quiet house by the lake, far from questions, close to peace. Sometimes they still sat in silence, side by side. Only now, silence didn't ache. It felt like home.